Like, listen, all right, I don't like Stanley.
Stanley, the Navy man, thinks he's so wise. He reads all
I think the only
books
person I have
with
been
the
was Stanley.
squint in his eyes, spins still so wild, like ships in the sky. But whose words
And Nate, Stanley doesn't state the obvious. Like,
You don't think one parent influence is detrimental?
Yes, he does.
I literally said they need to understand that it's a white people problem.
Okay, it's called Stanley versus the world.
And just assume their character by stereotype?
I think people do that every day.
Okay, I didn't ask you.
Do I think it's okay?
Began the campaigns of all countries in the world. It's tough to justify the things that went on in slavery and see yourself in a good light. African Americans have believed what America says it is. You know, I talk to these Uber drivers. You should hear, I love this country. I love this country. I ain't never felt no love for this country, quite frankly. Although we became American citizens, people's hearts don't change merely because of words on paper called laws. The courthouse isn't a place where fairness occurs very often. It's like just like an alcoholic or a drug addict. If you never acknowledge you have a problem, you can't fix it. Kind of like our U.S. Supreme Court. In some of its most recent decisions, they've indicated that racism has ended in America. Racism is perpetuated almost every newscast, and we just have to live with it. The news networks are playing to an older white audience. The words that were used, imagery that's put up on television. I was watching one creator who showed where they had a meetup at Newport Beach in California. 400 white kids at this meetup. They were fighting, 4 or 5 arrests. There even was some extensive vandalism. They never said the race of the people. As had it been a group of black people, it would have been race central. Day before yesterday, one of the major developers in this community wants to build on some church property. I said, well, what did they want to build? And the young lady told me that they want to build workforce housing. I said, did they define for you what workforce housing was? What's the minimum income you have to get the workforce housing? $150,000. I said, now tell me how many teachers at your school make $150K a year? We get duped into these kind of deals, and what will our community have left when the deal is finished? Welcome to the Rouse Report, where we add historical context to life, love, and politics. The Rouse Report is now in session. Hey, before you get into this next episode, I want you to like, comment, and share, and subscribe. No, seriously, like, comment, share, and subscribe. That's how we keep adding content just like this. I believe that the content we provide is educational, enlightening, and empowering for our entire community. I know you're going to enjoy this next episode. America changed its laws, but did it ever change its heart? We ended legal segregation. We passed civil rights legislation. We declared that every citizen should be treated equally, but laws do not eliminate prejudice. Redistribute power.
Welcome to Stanley versus the world, everyone. Happy Sunday. I was actually going to do this show earlier, but there was supposed to be a planned power outage for an hour, and maybe it was just kind of a broadcast to the neighborhood. Power hasn't gone out yet, so if for some reason it does in the middle of the broadcast, I won't be back. Plan on going back to the normal schedule, I hope, starting tomorrow. You know, basically shorter shows, news oriented, that sort of stuff, Monday through Friday-ish. And then, the Saturday show, which is a little looser. The occasional Sunday show, which seems to be every Sunday these days. But I'm actually going to wind up cutting back a little bit. mainly because the weekday shows need to be shorter. Saturday shows, I don't really care how long they go. Sunday shows should be brief. Um, you know, I guess what I'm actually finding is having to interact with the Seymours and the Big J's, and dude, this shit is exhausting. Having to just deal with some of these personalities. Uh, for someone like me who is actually an introvert, and I'm not just saying introvert, I actually am. People exhaust me sometimes. And you know, I bite my tongue way more than people realize. However, anyway, that all that aside, this shouldn't be a long show. Apparently, Universal Jones and Uniquely and Tina are supposed to have some parasocial stuff, which may tune in. Not particularly interested, but who knows? It promises to be sloppy. Uh, I hear you. Well, I saw Uniquely and CM's chat, and they're going back and forth, and Ryan's involved. It's going to be a typical, but it'll probably wind up being the documenter of Boyd is going to do a Boyd show. And again, it's probably just going to be repetitious. It's probably nothing, particularly entertaining, enlightening, or even interesting. So this is a video that I did not get to last night. And I've never watched this guy before. I think it was Speak Radio who recommended it. So we'll give it a check out. Then there's some videos that Leonard had a temper tantrum and did about me specifically last night, 3 or 4 of those. And we'll see where we are after all that. I do actually have a video of an old video of Barack Obama debating Alan Keyes. Alan Keyes was a black conservative that I didn't particularly, agree with his, his political takes, but as a human being, he was at least erudite and listenable. He might be the last black conservative that I actually respected. So if we make it to that, I definitely want to see Alan Keyes because I don't think he's with us anymore, but he was a respectable guy. If we don't get to that today, I'll open the show with it tomorrow. So, and the title of the show, Dawn Yesterday, there was a whole thing we were talking about Galt and CT and all these people basically saying that, black people in the military, you're taking crumbs from the government and that sort of thing. And her take was, the risk is to diminish the honor we attach to the service. I mean, black people, these people like John Galt and CT and all these weirdo black conservative types, they seem to forget that black people have pretty much fought in every war that the United States has been in, including the Civil War, where there are people who argue that black males in the Union Army, one of the factors in, the Union victory. These people don't actually study history. And something I said a few days ago, these MAGA blacks, and then their masters like Steven Crowder and Charlie Kirk, they seek to push an agenda. They're not seekers of truth, or they're not even seekers of, hey, let's test this stuff out with critical thinking. In my opinion, they are charlatans. They do a lot of this stuff for a buck. And many black conservatives, if you hear someone like Leonard talk, dude, he's all about the dollar. And there's an old song called "All That You Have Is Your Soul," and first time Tanita Tikaram, I think was her name. I ran across her decades ago when I was in the Navy. Bought her album in somewhere like it was somewhere like Abu Dhabi or something. And the reason I bought the music was she's really gorgeous. But when I heard that album, All That You Have Is Your Soul, she was kind of Tracy Chapman before Tracy Chapman, but or around that same time. Anyway, I'm digressing. What's up, Speak Radio? What's up, 12th Man? I really am I wouldn't say disgusted, but I keep saying this and I never do it, but I am going to trim back my YouTube activities a bit. Pretty much the same schedule, just less hours doing it, because dealing with some of these fucking idiots like CM and others, even the people that I kind of like, are exhausting, because it's just, goddamn, dude, how does America survive with people like this perpetuating the ignorance? And it's soul draining. So anyway, enough of my whining. We'll go ahead and listen to more of this. The link should drop down into the chat at some point. If anyone wants to come up before then, just let me know. I'll drop the link.
Correct media propaganda, or force institutions to treat people fairly. Today, we're talking about the difference between what America says it is and what Black Americans have actually experienced. I believe America has one of the best propaganda campaigns of all countries in the world. And African Americans, for the most part, have believed in what America says it is, and has rarely questioned that it has said it is one thing, yet our reality.
One other thing that I've just noticed, and it's always been this way, I just seem to be noticing it more. People, as soon as you make a broad statement about America is this or America is that, you'll get a Leonard go, well, I never experienced it. Meaning, like, he is typical, like he represents the Black experience. Why can't people, we lack objectivity. Part of objectivity is you don't bring yourself into the middle of whatever concept you're trying to talk about, or the thought experiment. Objectivity is not subjectivity. And I don't know whether it's our American education system. I don't think we adequately teach kids how to think critically, but thinking critically is an attempt, or should be part of thinking critically, is the attempt to take yourself out of the picture and try and be a dispassionate observer. And too many people seem to think, they call it main character syndrome. I call it lazy thinking. You can't empathize. You can't take yourself out of whatever thought experiment or what have you. And it just devolves into drama. Like every fucking show I watch, it'll devolve into drama. And much like Leonard last night, but there are other examples from yesterday. Dude, if I'm talking about something, maybe we'll take a minute or two for the side trip, for the tangent, but no, we're not going to move the whole conversation. I can't remember the last time that I titled the show with open panel in parentheses. my panels can be open-ish. If it's an interesting direction to go, sure, we might do it. But people seem to fucking think that I do open panels up here, and I don't. If the topic, and the topics may change, but when you come up here, and I'm talking about X, and all of a sudden, well, you want to talk about Y. Nope, we're not doing it. I'll drop your ass. Unless it's something that I'm interested in and I am willing to follow your lead. Otherwise, you follow my lead. And John Galt is famous for this. People will be talking about X. He'll come up and want to talk about something else, and he'll just kind of bully everybody into going into whatever. He'll be provocative or make jokes or whatever. No, it's what I want to do. This is not a democracy on this panel. You don't have free speech rights. Stop acting like I'm the fucking government. Talk about what we're talking about, or propose, hey, you know what? I'd like to talk about this. We can schedule it, or we may just pivot and talk about it if it's interesting enough. But I don't do open panels. And I would think people by now kind of understand that. If I'm going to do an open panel, I'm going to put it in the title, and I almost never do open panels. I can't remember the last time I had an open panel. So coming up to say hi is one thing, but coming up to say hi doesn't mean I'm remotely interested in what you might want to talk about. And yep, I'm being a dick, but oh well.
It is something quite different. Immigrants come here thinking this is the place. I would listen to. I talk to these Uber drivers, and you should hear, "I love this country. I love this country." I ain't never felt no love for this country, quite frankly. They have this view based on what they've been sold, and what they've been sold is a bunch of bullshit. And it takes them a generation or so to realize that what they've been sold is, their children will know it's not true in most instances. And, because most people don't move, but maybe one economic class above their parents. They either stay the same as their parents or they move one economic class above their parents. I think back to our civil rights icons and what they were trying to achieve by getting civil rights laws and amendments to the Constitution. And the reality is laws don't change the way people feel. So although we got the right to vote, although we got birthright citizenship, although we became American citizens, we never have received full and complete citizenship and have been treated equally in this country. And I can prove it. That's because people's hearts don't change merely because of words on paper called laws. Laws don't change hearts. And you can have as many laws as you want on the books that say that people can't discriminate. It's still not going to change the heart of the person that is a racist or a bigot. I did a clip for the law firm talking about how African Americans have this unrealistic faith in the justice system. And I explained that many times I am trying to pick a jury and I can tell that they're.
I've never gotten that impression. Now, this guy's a lawyer, so I'm not disagreeing or contradicting, but I've never gotten the impression that Black people trust in the U.S. justice system to that degree. As a matter of fact, I am probably more optimistic about the justice system than most of the people that I can recall, broaching the topic. So I'm not sure I agree with that point.
There are people who are being less than truthful about how they feel on certain issues that they think might get them kicked off the jury because they are earnestly trying to be a part of the jury. And they're trying to be a part of the jury so that they can torpedo the case of the litigant or my client at the end of the case. When we look at the composition of juries, we see that they are, for the most part, in communities across this country, they can be all white. And we know that there is a bias in this country. I think most people admit that racism still exists on some level. So if you understand that racism exists and you're supposed to be judged by a jury of your peers, having an all-white jury in and of itself says that you probably are not going to have a jury of your peers if you're African American, Hispanic, or.
Well, the problem is the Justice Roberts of the world are trying to drive America, and maybe it's just specifically Black people, into believing an all-white jury is a jury of your peers. That's really what it is. The Supreme Court has pretty much declared that, hey, the only way, and this is quoting Roberts, the only way to end racism is to not be racist, or something to that effect. These people basically think that, hey, let's pretend we're colorblind. Eventually, racism will go away. And I just don't think that's how it works.
Or any other non-white nationality. And as a result, we have probably some of the lowest rates of success in the courtroom, whether it be criminal or civil. Whenever I talk to a client and the insurance company has said that they are not going to pay anymore, and that they automatically say, well, let's take them to court. And I don't have a problem taking them to court. We try cases every year, but I have difficulty trying to express to the clients that the courthouse isn't a place where fairness occurs very often. The courthouse is a place where you can go through the justice system. You can do all of the things that say that you're going to get a fair trial, but a fair trial is not guaranteed. In fact, the chances of you getting a fair trial are less likely than they are for you getting an unfair trial. The likelihood is you'll get an unfair trial, a trial where there's no one that looks like you on the jury, a trial where there are people who have stated biases against you are going to be allowed to sit on that jury, and you're going to have judges that likewise believe that just because you have jurors, everybody can be fair. And that's just not true. And judges who don't look like you, that likewise have internalized unrecognized racism within them. And so as a result of that, some of their decisions are going to likewise reflect the fact that they don't recognize race or racism, kind of like our U.S. Supreme Court. In some of its most recent decisions, they've indicated that racism has ended in America. And my lived life experience and the lived life experience of my family and my friends says that racism is as alive today as it was when I was born. Racism has several components, but it is treating you differently as a result of what your quote unquote race is, because we know that race is a false construct created by a botanist called Linnaeus. But regardless, race is generally determined by the color of your skin. And so to have preconceived notions about who and what you are merely because of the color of your skin is a general understanding of race. And then having the ability based upon the power dynamic, meaning that you have power over another person and you have privileges that person of a different race, you have those privileges that they do not enjoy, even though you both are quote unquote American citizens. Prejudice, anybody can be prejudiced. I could be prejudiced against broccoli. I don't like broccoli. Prejudice is not as intense as racism, is dealing primarily with the preconceived notions that a person will behave or act in a certain way
Okay, and people seem to understand that all racists are prejudiced, but not all prejudice is racist. I don't even understand. I hear people all the time. This is another thing about all these people on YouTube who want to talk race this and race that. They literally have no clue what racist, racism, and racial, they're all related, but damn, um, you that people, there are books out there. And I always talk about the Field sisters, Barbara and Karen Fields wrote a book called Racecraft, which is like the best book that I've read. One sister's a historian. You'll remember her from the Civil War series that Ken Burns did. Her sister's a PhD sociologist. They wrote a book from a historical perspective, from a sociological perspective about race in America called Racecraft. And it's a little complicated, but once you read it, it gives you the language to talk about these sorts of things. And too many people, oh, it's everybody's racist. No, it's hard not to be, but no, not everybody's racist. People certainly aren't born to be racist. In this pattern recognition bullshit, recognizing patterns does not have to be racist. The gobbledygook that these miseducated, in a lot of cases, and intentionally stupid in other cases, dude, we have got to do better. If you're going to talk race and all this stuff, why not do some research? Why not do some reading and educate yourself? Because talking bullshit about concepts you don't understand, it just muddies the water. That's the other thing. I'm just tired of talking to dumb fucks who have no clue what they're talking about. They heard it on another panel. It sounds good, so it becomes their mantra.
Because of the color of their skin or because of their nationality or ethnic origin. Likewise, because of the color of their skin. Prejudice is just a dislike of people that look a certain way. You can be prejudiced against long dresses. You can be prejudiced against people who have blonde hair. The difference between racism and prejudice is truly the power dynamic. It's the ability to make a phone call to the police, and when the police arrive, if it's a white woman and a black man, the black man is automatically going to be deemed to be the suspect. It's the ability to, black men make up 6% of the population, but they make up 60% of the prison population. Black homeowners selling their homes in the very same neighborhoods as whites, more often than not, homes are sold for less and appraised at lower values if the appraiser knows that the homeowner is black. I mean, these are things that are baked into the system that are, what I say, a part of the power dynamic. Prejudice isn't necessarily a part of the power dynamic. Racism is. Racism is the system that makes it such that people who are not in the dominant race, the outcome that they receive in the medical system is worse than that of the dominant culture. The opportunity at capital to start businesses is affected. So all of the, I guess, elements of being an American are not afforded to certain groups as a result of race, whereas the race of the non-dominant group cannot affect any of those issues when it comes to the dominant group. So black people can't, for the most part, can't deny white folks loans. Black people can't, for the most part, keep white folks out of their neighborhood. Black people, we don't have the same power. There's a power dynamic that is different for black people versus white people. And racism is one of the factors that is used in order to wield that power dynamic negatively against Black people and other non-whites. I think having racist thoughts and ideologies requires in order for you to identify them, it does require introspection about your behavior and why you feel that way. I mean, the propaganda against Black Americans is so intense that even in Africa, when I was in Ghana and Senegal, in Kenya, they have a view of African Americans that has been created by the media that in many respects is negative. And so our image and who we are as a people we don't control how it's created. That's done by whites. You can look at television shows, and I still remember Black characters played certain roles. They were always the cool guy. They were always, never the student, never the smartest person in the room. And so when that imagery is pushed out over the world, then people begin to identify with false images of entire groups of people based on their race. And so it is very difficult for a person not to be influenced by popular culture and what has been created. People are complex and people are lazy. People are complex in the sense that even the worst person from the hood is not like every other person in the hood. They have nuances. Yet, in order for us to be able to conceptualize that person, we place them in a box and we think that they are like all others who we have seen in that box. And we don't give them an opportunity to show us that they are not like everybody that's in that box. It affects even Black people against Black people. I mean, I might see a group of young Black guys walking towards me and automatically in my mind say to myself, what they up to? And that was created as a result of imagery, as a result of TV, movies. I mean, there are a whole host of reasons that thought comes into my mind. Now, the difference is I have identified that I've been affected by popular culture and media. I'm not stupid. I know that, if I'm in an area where I'm not recognized or I'm not, there are some realities, but the singular reality is that you don't judge people. I try not to judge people or prejudge before I get an opportunity to know them, but I'm not going to place myself in a position where I am in danger either. And, so statistically, we know that there are some places that are that have higher instances of crime.
I also, will, say this all the time, but America teaches racism. It teaches people to be racist. That's part of the racism. As soon as a child is, exposed to social media, if not before then, but as soon as a child is exposed to social media or other children, it's on. I remember my son was in kindergarten, and one day he comes, and it was like his best friend, I think it was. Maybe I'm wrong. Kid who lived like a 10-minute walk right up the road and hang a right. It was all dirt roads, gravel roads back there. So, you can literally let a child, 5-6-year-old, walk from your front door to his friend's front door. Yeah, there's the occasional bear. So that's a bit of a worry. But bears usually won't, they didn't really walk that road much. But anyway, he's like, well, so-and-so called me a mulatto. And my son was 5. I'm like, damn, that's a complicated word for, 5-year-olds to be calling each other. And, I don't even remember what my response was other than, to explain what the word meant, because I guess technically he is, but it stuck with me. This is like 15 years ago. How the fuck would a 5-year-old kindergartner even know what a mulatto is? And I just assumed it was from his parents or something like that. These kids learn it young from social media. It is almost impossible to grow up in the United States and not have some notion that's racist. You have to work to not be racist because the default setting is racist. And that's black, white, doesn't matter.
Than others. And if you are not from that community and you stand out, that's anywhere in the world. They tell you when you go to South Africa, don't walk around with your phone out. That's what Americans do. So the reality of understanding where you are is one aspect, but the initial perception of the people you're encountering that you don't know, that don't look like you and may not share your race, comes from popular culture and the imagery created that places everybody in a simple and easy box so that we can discern who to trust and who not to trust. And that is something that, for the most part in this world, Black people don't control their own image. I don't think that every white person is a rabid racist. I do think that every white person has some level of racism in them because they are affected by their environment. They may have some prejudice in them, but we can talk more about that on the other side of this break. I was watching one creator who showed where they had a meetup at Newport Beach in California.
Okay, this is going to be my criticism. Don't just blame white people, black people. It does not matter. Oddly enough, racism is raceless. We are taught, pretty much from the time we're aware of, environments outside of our immediate parents. And if the parents are racist, probably sooner than that. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. Asian. We are literally, and that's the insidiousness of racism. It's pervasive. It is in the fabric of the culture. I think he's a little remiss in not saying black people are under the same conditions. I always say that black people in America should be the least prone to racism, but YouTube has convinced me I'm absolutely wrong about that. We're just as susceptible, sometimes against our own people, by the way. Sometimes, I mean often. What's up, 12th man?
Hey, Stanley, good to see you, friend.
You too.
It's a um, hard thing when you got people like the Mike 123s running around disrespecting military veterans and shit like that. Makes me want to puke, man. I'm sorry. Can't be having that. Who in the hell are
Yep.
they?
Well, it is what it is. Any
Yeah.
comments on the video?
Not so far. Still listening, Stanley.
Okay. Well, let's start it up.
And there were over
Oops. Still there, Stanley? Looks like Stanley had to reload or do something. I know y'all don't want to talk to my boring ass. Oh shit. Damn. Y'all got a storm down there, Stanley? That's funny, CKJ.
12th man, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah.
Uh,
There was supposed to be a planned power outage an hour ago. I don't know. The power went out the other day, and they sent an email or a text about 2 hours ago that hey, we're shutting it down at 6 Eastern time for about an hour. And here we are
oh,
after 7:30. So I figured, well, either they did it and power wasn't affected, but yeah, they just cut it off. So I'm on my phone, until the power comes back on. Which I haven't done a StreamYard show from the
doesn't
phone.
your doesn't your laptop have a battery though?
Yeah, but the wireless doesn't.
Oh, I
So
see.
yeah, I've got a T-Mobile 5G router, and I've got the regular AT&T FiOS, but the modems need power. My phone does not. It's just talking to. It's got the battery and all that, and if I need to charge it, I've got a charge bank somewhere. So
Right on.
now the problem is going to be. Um, I'm not absolutely sure how to
Well,
keep playing that
you,
video.
yeah, your phone should last for a while, right? The battery in
My
that.
what?
I don't know what kind of phone you got.
I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about the phone. I have a charge bank. These big batteries. If it runs low, I can
Yeah,
charge it with a battery. you know, so we're pretty much
yeah.
stuck until my power comes back on. No idea how long it's going to be. But Deacon Dave, I have no idea what you're asking. Something about something new that I found. No idea what that means. Can you elaborate, or you can click the link and come up? Sorry about this. It's a little inconvenient, but we'll work through it.
Yeah.
Anti-white shutdown Braves channel. That's hard for me to believe. B Brave is a raging racist who gets pissed off when black people don't do his bidding. Like the other night, he was pissed off
because I didn't come up there. Uh, he wanted me to
Yeah,
come up, so I guess he could go back and forth and all this bullshit. And I just basically sniped from the chat, which I thought was hilarious.
that was
Just pi-
funny, Stanley.
just pissing him off.
Yeah. You wasn't giving him the time of day except from the chat, and that just infuriated him.
Yeah, well, he likes to be taken seriously, and it's kind of what I said. Excuse me. Kind of what I said at the beginning of the show. I really, I'm just tired of giving these nimrods that much of my attention.
Mm.
And I've been doing it for years now. And CM, this whole situation with CM just convinced me, dude, you are literally, this is quixotic, going against people who can't be taught. They don't want to learn. I think I think MOT's having an effect on me. These people don't want to fucking learn. They just want to, stay in their little under their little rocks where it's warm and comfortable with their, under the rock dwellers or fellow under the rock dwellers.
Like those little crabs that live under the rocks by the beach. Then if you walk near them,
Right.
they hide back under the rock.
Let's see here. It's been
Hey,
so
Stanley,
long since
I was going to mention when I restreamed your show to my uh, channel last month, I called it Me versus Stanley. Got over 700 views. I was like, wow, I couldn't believe that shit.
Yeah, that's
Like,
more views than I get.
and I'm just a little bitty channel.
I think sometimes I'm the person people love to hate. But I meant to bring this up yesterday. By the way, I got like 750 plus views, but it was over 12 hours, so it's not that big a deal. But that's probably the most views I've ever had on a single show. But one of the things, I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Most of the people who, day to day come to the chat, there very few of them agree with my politics. But, I think it's fun just to kind of go back and forth. Sometimes politics can get in the way of, just normal day to day interaction. Like
Yeah.
outside of YouTube, I really like last time I was working, when you get an idea of who someone might vote for. However, I never talk politics, because I do have some conservative views. If nothing else, there's certain types of, values that are probably, more, how would I call them? I was calling myself a school marm the other day because there's just some things you don't talk about. Relationships are one of them. I never talk relationship dynamics because I think everybody does relationships differently. I don't think there's a magic rule or bullet, like a cookie cutter advice for
Right.
romantic relationships. I don't think you can get good advice on YouTube. The best advisors if you're lucky enough, the best advisors you'll ever have on personal matters are people who know you personally.
Yeah.
So, so let's
Well, I've been
see here.
having some experiences with that and people spreading false information about my candidate for governor. And I just put them down every time with the facts, Stanley. And that's what they can't stand is the facts. When you
Oh, wait.
confront people with facts, then, you know,
Okay, well,
it
power just
just,
came back on. So I'll be
okay.
switching back over to the computer here. I'm gonna make sure it stays on before I switch. Um, Go ahead and say what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've been dealing with these people spreading false information about my candidate for governor. And I tell you, man, and uh, when you show them the facts, like they ain't got nothing to say. When you spit out the facts to them, what do they got? Nothing. They just
Right.
spread fake news, man. They like to spread fake news. Infuriates me, Stanley. Really. I have to spend all my
Yeah. Well,
energy.
politics is somewhat separate from real life. I tend, I've always had the talent for compartmentalizing. And, unless it's just like blatant, I've always been able to kind of separate the two. Um, Now, there's sometimes like, sometimes you can't, but I do actually believe politics is downstream of culture. And so let's see here. Why is this not cooperating?
I don't know. Maybe I should spend less time and energy on it. But when you got a
Well,
candidate you're going for, especially something as important as the governorship, I mean, I feel like I have to get involved in the conversation. You know what I mean, Stanley?
right.
It's like hard to stay out of it. Like that is if you're passionate about politics, which I happen to be, and I used to be a lot more active. Like I'd be out going to all these meet and greets and everything and shaking everyone's hand and having a good old time, and I I don't have much of that in me anymore. I don't know if I just lose an interest or what it is, but when I see people post fake news, like blatant false lies, like it upsets me. And so, because I have to go back and correct their ass. You know what I mean? I have to spend my time and energy correcting these liars. Just, it's kind of upsetting. I don't, I don't even know that
Hold on.
I
Let
want
me
to have
back.
anything to. I don't know that I want to have anything to do with politics for much longer, Stanley. It just takes too much energy out of me, man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, just
Could
give
you
me
hear
one
me?
sec. Let me kill my earbuds on my phone and
Yeah,
let
you're
me
a little
give me one sec. Let me bring up my earbuds on my computer. Okay, speak now.
Okay. I guess you didn't
Okay,
hear
yeah.
anything I just said, Stanley.
I heard
That's
some. I
okay.
heard some of it about you not wanting to give up politics or something like that.
Well, wanting to give it up, I think it takes too much time and energy out of me. I mean, I'll still vote and all that stuff, but as far as campaigning for someone and all that, I don't know if I have that type of energy anymore. Like I used to go to all the meet and greets and shake all the hands and do all that good business, but I don't know if I want to do it anymore. You know what I mean? It's just not takes a lot of time
Well,
and
like
energy
Neil
to
Young
do all
says,
that shit.
there comes a time. So, should be
Get
back
you in
to normal.
arguments with your friends that you've known a long time, and pretty soon they don't want to be your friends anymore because you disagree on this or that candidate or whatever. It's just it's kind of
I'm gonna
gut
be honest.
wrenching in a way.
I'm gonna be honest. Uh, I can't remember the last time I got into a political discussion with a friend outside of YouTube.
Mhm.
You know, to me, sometimes politics is a little bit like religion. Sometimes you just don't talk about it. Find other things to talk about.
Yeah, like fishing or cooking or something like that.
Right.
Stuff we
Yeah,
can
it's
all
kind of
agree on. Right.
who's MAGA brained. So let's get back to this. I don't know if I this was by the way, folks, make sure you hit the like button. If you're new to the show, please make sure that you subscribe to the show. You know, it's a bit of an acquired taste, but you know, most people, you know, if they can get used to it, do get used to it. If they can't, they just unsubscribe, which, you know, either way, it's a decision that everyone has to make. Um, hey, Chocolate Earth. So if you're new to the channel, like, share, and subscribe to it. um, this particular show was recommended by Speak Radio. Lest I forget to mention that. Support the show by supporting the host. Giving me show ideas or recommending videos is supporting the host, as well as the you know, the financial stuff. So, and by the way, speaking of that, thank you for your support yesterday, 12th man. I didn't really see the Cash App
Or
until
did I send you something? I don't even remember. I
okay.
got pretty wasted yesterday. So
Well, yes, you did. So, just the sponsors of yesterday's show, just you know, I mentioned it several times yesterday, but to include 12th man, this Saturday, the gas money for the Saturday bus was Stan Autry, 12th man, and Mike 123. As much guff as he gives, he does support the show.
yeah,
Probably just as some sort of irony. And then let's mention our executive producers: Brooklyn Watson, the CKJ3, the Dirty Dude, the Lupin Rigging, and the Speak Radio, who, in, you know, monetarily, talent wise, are essential to the program. So thanks to them. And let us get back to this video. I don't know that I'm going to listen to it all the way through, but because he's kind of saying things that I talk about all the time, but sometimes it is actually good to have someone who's not me reinforce some of this stuff so people just don't think, I'm out on a limb just, preaching like a crazy man on the corner.
The fighting, unlike the way they report when if the same thing were true. They didn't call the breaking into some stores looting. So the words that were used, the imagery that's put up on television, the entire way that the event was covered was race neutral. Whereas had it been a group of Black people, it would have been race central, that the race of the people who engaged in this meetup that turned into a brawl and turned into some looting and turned into people getting injured, the race of those people would have been a primary or central theme of why they were doing it. And that really, I think,
your show
kind of
to my
illustrates
channel again,
how in the news media, especially.
You what?
I just shared your show to my channel again. Hope you don't copyright me.
Tell them to subscribe.
Yeah, I did. And I said, join the panel, and I shared the link.
Well, thank you.
Racism is perpetuated almost every newscast. I can show you some way that an issue is reported that is going to negatively reflect on the Black community. And we just have to live with it. We don't own most of the news networks. Truth in reporting is something that if we were trying to come to rid this country of the racist mindset towards Blacks and immigrants, there would be a division within the news that controlled how the message is told, because it is so effective. We talk about the civil rights laws were created in order to end segregation and the legal limitations of citizenship in this country. No one has ever said that civil rights laws were meant to bring the races together or to end racism. This country has never acknowledged that racism exists. Now, certain sociologists, psychologists have verified that racism exists, but the country as a governmental entity has never acknowledged that racism exists. If you never acknowledge you have a problem, it's just like an alcoholic or a drug addict, you can't fix it. And why I say that is this. In other countries, I did an interview with a young lady from South Africa. And in South Africa, the equivalent word for the N-word in South Africa is kafir, Kaffir. Well, when I did my podcast with this young lady, she didn't even say the K word. She said the word we don't use anymore. Countries that are serious about trying to end racism do things like that. In Germany, you're not allowed to do the Siegheil, the salute that was so popular during the days of Hitler, or wear a Nazi symbol. Those are the kinds of things that they realize that these images and these ideas are held in images. Yet in this country, for whatever reason, the N-word has never been made illegal. And the justification has been the First Amendment. So ridding the country of racism has never been a primary concern. Giving lip service to civil rights has been enough. And unfortunately, as African Americans, we've allowed it to be enough. If you look at what has happened to the major news networks, CNN has been bought by right-wing conservatives and will ultimately become another arm of the Fox News type media. MSNBC has remained, I guess, more to the left. But if you look at the statistics, who's watching the news networks are playing to an older white audience. And the way that it is being presented is in order to maintain the confirmation bias that the older white audience already has regarding their outlook on America. And what I mean by that in simple terms is Black people are bad and are the biggest cause of trouble in this country. And white people are good. And we're having to deal with all these bad Black people and immigrants who are coming over trying to change America and make it something it was never intended to be. In a very simple and simplistic way, that's how I see American media and news today in this country. If you look at the Articles of the Confederacy, every state within the Confederacy pledged that slavery would always exist had they won the war. So you have a certain population of people who were never punished for seceding from the Union, who believed that slavery was okay. And that same element of society has historically maintained its ideology. It's just not able to enforce its ideology because the Union won. So it goes all the way back to why the Civil War was fought. You know, when I was in school, it was taught that the reason the Civil War was fought was as a result of states' rights. Those states wanted the right to pass laws that the federal government had to respect. What were those laws? They were slave laws. They were the Fugitive Slave Act and laws like that. They could leave South Carolina and go to New Hampshire and capture someone who had escaped and bring them back to South Carolina. There has always been an element in this country that wanted to utilize the free labor of Black people or to have a subgroup of Americans who had no rights or very few rights. That element still exists. They just can't be as vocal about it as they were in the 1800s. But you see it every day. You see it with this administration and the attacks on history. I mean, it's relentless almost every day. And why history? Why is history attacked so much by this administration? Let's talk about it after the break. You don't study history for the purpose of studying history. You study history to learn about the past in order to predict the future. So if you understand that the Confederacy, after the war, those who fought on the side of the Confederates or the Confederacy committed treason against the Union. I was always told that.
Well, that's where we're going to diverge a bit. First off, one of the biggest issues was not so much preserving slavery in the states that already had slavery. It was the expansion of slavery westward that, you know, was one of the major triggers. The South needed land, growing cotton and stuff like that. Cotton exhausts soil. Pushing it westward was essential, you know, for the profits to continue to roll in at the rate they had been coming in. Second off, I pretty much disagree that you can't predict the future. I think you study the past to understand the present, how we got here. Possibly you can avoid some mistakes that led up, you know, to past mistakes. I don't think some historian I was watching a couple weeks ago said historians, you know, are the worst futurists. You know, they understand how we got here, and maybe, you know, kind of helping roadmap our way past some of the past mistakes. Too many people just get it wrong. And quite frankly, I don't understand how you can be a lawyer and not actually have a very good working model or knowledge of history and politics. I don't know how you avoid that and be a good lawyer. And I don't know this guy. I don't know whether he's a good lawyer or not. I think he's a civil rights attorney. But some of these conceptions about what history is, you know, I find them dubious.
if you commit treason against this country, you face the death penalty. This country did not have the stomach to exact the final penalty on those who fought for the Confederacy, and in fact allowed them to go back to their communities. In most instances, gave them their land back, minus the slaves. So if you understand that you still have an element of people who generationally were taught this mindset that still exists in this country, you don't want to tell an accurate history of who and what they were. You attack history. And that's what this administration has been doing, is attacking history, because it's tough to justify the things that went on in slavery and see yourself in a good light. And this administration would prefer that portion of history, the degradation of a people, the mistreatment of people because of the color of their skin and because they had been treating people like cattle. This administration would prefer that never be told in its most truthful element. Those facts that Thomas Jefferson would be considered a pedophile because he had children with a 14-year-old half sister of his wife, Sally Hemings. Those kind of stories make America feel queasy.
What's up, MOT?
Makes those who would have
nothing much, just kind of catching up with some stuff I didn't get to yesterday.
Hey, MOT, what's up, homie?
Yeah, what's going on, man? Chilling out. I agree with everything that this guy is saying, and the country would have been better off if we would have just marched those people into the Gulf of Mexico. We wouldn't have most of the issues that we would have had right now. Would have been an inflection point in history. Country would have been better off. Period.
Okay, you mean the plantation class, like the
people who fought for
after the Civil War?
Yes, they all should have been executed. Every single one of them.
I never get into counter histories or alternative history. I do kind of think that I think everybody will agree Andrew Johnson was the worst president at the worst time. I sometimes wonder though, I think Lincoln probably would have been too soft. And in the end, what people, I don't know that people actually understand that ending slavery was not synonymous with like equal rights. You know what? Many abolitionists wanted to end slavery because it was obviously a degeneracy that was basically turning like little white girls into cruel slave masters, that sort of thing. But they didn't think black people were equal. That was kind of few and far between. I'm not convinced that Abraham Lincoln ever saw, maybe a few people like a Frederick Douglass. These people didn't have any, notion that black people were social equals, political equals, all that sort of stuff. So I just don't think
a perversion of their religion to serve these type of ends.
Right, but I don't think America ever had a notion of marching people into the sea. These were, less than 50 years later, they were doing those red and those blue and gray, like, hey, let's all get together at Gettysburg and have a picnic.
Yeah, that's crazy talk. Yeah.
So they weren't about to march these people into the sea. As a matter of fact, after 1877, like Alexander Stephens, who was a Georgia congressman, I think, became vice president of the Confederacy. if I recall, and I could be wrong, he wound up back in the house. I think I'd have to look
Yeah,
it
he did.
up. But
He
these
did
people,
after
Well, you
the war.
remember,
okay, yeah,
Stanley, you remember how racist Lincoln was, right? He wanted to send all the black people back to Africa originally. That was his plan. And when that didn't
and
work out, of course, we had to go to
your point,
war.
your point would be what? I mean, we pretty much established that a lot of abolitionists were not like, thinking that black people are equal. They just wanted to get rid of slavery because it was kind of like a degeneracy, a
Yeah,
spiritual
it was
Right.
a
degeneracy.
clear
So
perversion of their religion.
we've
Clear
established
perversion.
that, yeah, we've established that, a lot of people sometimes you can, what did Derek Bell call it? Interest convergence. Sometimes doing the right thing for the wrong reasons, maybe. Sometimes racists, like Marcus Garvey and the Klan or Malcolm X and the Klan. Okay, yeah, these two people who ordinarily wouldn't even be talking to each other, but there's a shared goal of separating the races. Yeah, you know what? We had the same goal. Let's sit down, break bread, and talk about how we segregate. Doesn't mean they're friends, doesn't mean that they think, hey, we're equals and buddy buddy. We just have a common interest and maybe we can help each other out. So that is part of America as well. That's
I might
something
pay
that should
money to
actually
see that interview, Stanley.
sometimes things like this, it's a simple concept. Things like that should be taught in high school. Sometimes you do the right thing, maybe for the wrong reasons or not for the same reason somebody else is doing or supporting the goal. That's kind of human nature sometimes. I was thinking, yeah, the wife wants to go visit her father and you're busy working, but you encourage her to go because you get peace and quiet and she gets to see, her relatives. I've been there.
And fighting on the side of the Confederacy feel a little queasy. So rather than have the greater America know the truthful story of its historical beginnings, it will prefer to blind America to that bad part, to that part that isn't comfortable talking about, so that they can continue with the propagation of the propaganda that America is the land of the free and home of the brave. These simplistic ideations about who America and what America is helps continue the American story and allows for America to continue to be able to have a class system where you have the very rich and you are having a shrinking middle class and a permanent bottom economic class filled with blacks and other immigrants. I think that we are becoming more like places like Venezuela, many of the countries in the world, Guatemala, where you have two classes of people, rich and poor. Day before yesterday, one of the major developers in this community wants to build on some church property. And I said, well, what did they want to build? And the young lady told me that they want to build workforce housing. And this is the thing about America, is that we love to use terms that seem one way, but are in reality very, very different. She told me, she says, it's housing for school teachers and for police officers and firefighters. And that's whenever anyone says this thing, workforce housing, that's the line that always follows. It's for school teachers and police officers and firefighters, right? Well, I said, did they define for you what workforce housing was? And she says, yes. And I said, what's the minimum income you have to get the workforce housing? $150,000. I said, now tell me And this woman was a principal at a school. Tell me how many teachers at your school make $150K a year? You know, Malcolm X had a brilliant quote. He said, just because I put kittens in an oven doesn't make them biscuits. So just because I call it workforce housing doesn't mean it's for the working people. The median salary in Palm Beach County in some areas is $23 an hour. That's less than $40,000 a year. How is that workforce housing? Those are working people. You know, I got caught up when I was a city commissioner. I got caught in that trap of, well, it's workforce housing, and not asking the second question. Well, what does that mean? Because politicians, lawyers, real estate moguls use a whole bunch of terms that if you don't know what they mean, they make them sound one way when in reality they are another way. Now, workforce housing at $150,000 is not workforce housing for what would be considered the middle class here in Palm Beach County. The median price of a home being somewhere around $600,000 in Palm Beach County. There are very few people who can even qualify to buy a house. So now here is an apartment where you got to make 150 grand a year to move into it, or a condo.
This is somewhere in Florida. I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about. And yeah, if he veers too much, I'll probably move on to the next videos. The next block of videos, 2 or 3 videos, is going to be Leonard Remix Roy roasting Stanley, because Stanley did not let Leonard Remix Roy commandeer the show. I don't do that. He's got a channel. If he wants to go live and do what Leonard does, I kept having to remind him, I'm not Latino or, you know, all these people that enjoy your antics. You know, we're gonna have to keep you corralled. We're not going to turn this in. We're not going to turn this into the Leonard Remix Roy show. You are not the guest star. I don't have those, and I rarely do open panels. So he has, if anybody has a main character syndrome, it is him. And telling him, not interested in the topic, let's stay on topic, he gets a little miffed, to use a word.
You can call it condo, apartment, same thing. But the developer is selling the Black church and notion that they're going to be helping the community by providing workforce housing, and the church is either purposely blind or haven't done their research. If they're purposely blind, that means that they are collaborators with the developer to use their land that should be going to their community. It's a piece of property attached to the edifice of the church that they could sell, and they'll probably put a 20-story condo on that property because it overlooks a lake, and, you know, it could look back towards the city until they build something in front of it. Very centrally located, would be a great development. And it would be especially great development if that church was able to get with 2 or 3 other churches and develop it and make it so that it could be workforce housing. I see churches that get in bed with developers.
You know, essentially, Lincoln realized towards the end of the Civil War that ending slavery was an economic weapon. Okay. Once slaves could run towards Union lines and abandon plantations, during the Civil War, slaves in the South were still producing food and that sort of thing to feed the Confederate Army. So having slaves going, I'm going to throw down my hoe and run towards the Union lines, you're basically starving the enemy. So Lincoln had all kinds of notions. But towards the end, he's like, hey, you know what? We need to win this war. And I'm paraphrasing a lot. I'm by no means even that much of a Civil War buff. But, and not only that, if you were a young black male fighting for the Union Army, there were perks, voting, uh, pensions, that sort of thing. So, you're not going to be giving all these perks to
Let's
black.
be honest.
Okay, no,
Stanley.
hold on. Let me finish. You're not going to be giving all these perks like, benefits, monetary benefits, pensions, that sort of thing. You're not going to be giving it to people you want to ship back to Africa. And unfortunately, we don't know, what the end point or how Lincoln would have evolved in the end. But I think the radical Republicans at the time, they were firmly in control for quite some time. They did some Mitch McConnell shit to get things like the 14th and 15th Amendments passed. They were Mitch McConnell level diabolical. So this back to Africa stuff, yeah, for a time. But I think at the end, he wasn't thinking that way. As it turned out, black people were fairly useful. People like Frederick Douglass, who had two of his sons fight in the Civil War. One is like a sergeant major or something. He was kind of prominent. I think in the end, I'm not going to say that, Abraham Lincoln was reformed and he saw the light, but he definitely saw a certain class of black citizen is very useful to the country. What do you have to say, 12th man?
Well, I was going to say Lincoln wasn't all that great toward black Union soldiers either. I mean, you had to have this one general fight just to give them boots, and then they didn't want to harm them either.
Okay, what's your point?
Give them guns.
Is your point? Okay, all that changed when
they didn't want to give them boots or guns or nothing, and they barely fed them.
Listen to what I listen to. No, don't fucking okay me. You don't know the history. Okay, it changed is my point. How the fuck do you think
they finally did?
Okay, do not interrupt. Okay, stop speaking from a position of ignorance and listen to someone who simply knows more about it. How the fuck do you think Union soldiers fought if they didn't have boots or guns?
That was the black ones. They're the ones. Okay, they didn't want to give boots.
12th man,
guns.
12th man, 12th man. You're talking from the bottom of your beer can. It was like that, but towards the end, things changed.
Yeah. Thanks to a white general.
No, thanks to the commander in chief. This weird bullshit.
Lincoln changed.
Okay, was he not commander in chief?
He was. Okay,
well then if he is commander in chief, then he was responsible for that white general.
He grudgingly did it. They didn't want to give the black soldiers boots or guns.
Okay, I know that maybe because you have some rudimentary knowledge, that your knowledge is superior to mine. I
read the book.
I am here. What book? God damn it, there are hundreds of books. Okay, just because you read a fucking high school textbook, that's not history.
It's a history book.
Stop acting like you know shit. You simply don't.
Well, you want to act like I don't know nothing, but I do.
No, I literally am not acting. You're proving. Like, yeah, sure. But things changed.
You just want to stick up for Lincoln and all the dirty.
Why wouldn't I? Why? Okay. So what you want to do is not stick up for Lincoln. You want Lincoln to be the bad guy in this story, correct?
Yeah, because he was a bad guy.
Well, then let me put it to you this way. You need to go back and you need to read some history. Okay, and
That's
not
why
just one
someone
history,
shot
but
him in his
okay,
head.
I don't know why, dude. I don't know why you have the need to overtalk me and interrupt me. I'm saying you don't know enough. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, fair enough, Stanley. Carry on.
And I'm gonna be. I literally said that Lincoln, getting rid of slavery didn't make him, this kumbaya sort of, hey, black people and white people
Right.
hand in hand. Okay, did I not say that?
Yeah,
Did I
you
not
did
say
that.
did I not say you can be against slavery and still have a racist sort of, judging people by the color of their skin? There are plenty. I would say most Americans were like that at the time. So where this idea of me defending Lincoln, I don't necessarily defend Lincoln, but I'm not going to say that, as soon as the Union had won the war, he was shipping people back. That wasn't going to happen. Now, I would also say he probably would have been okay with segregation, separating the two. A lot of people,
Of course he would.
right, but I can't say that for sure because he was killed. All I can say is that there were certain black people that he at least regarded as good for advisement on black affairs. I think that he definitely realized that having the 300,000 or whatever the number was, having black soldiers fight for their freedom because they were motivated to do so, especially when white recruitment went way down because there were people in places like New York City that weren't going to fucking fight to free the black man. So those black soldiers came in handy. I do think Lincoln appreciated that. Frederick Douglass himself was like a major recruiter for black soldiers getting into the Union Army, up to and including two of his sons. One was a very senior enlisted, like company first sergeant or something of that to that effect. So at least Lincoln was willing to put his sons where his mouth was, fighting for freedom. So you just simply, dude, it's not like I'm some eminent historian. I don't know this stuff in detail, but I know enough I don't say shit that I can't back up. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But dude, I'm 61 years old. I've been reading about this shit since my mother put W.E.B. Du Bois, The Soul of Black Folks. I don't know if she put it in my hand, but it was on her bookshelf and I read it. This is 50 years of reading shit. Okay, I don't just get up here and whistle Dixie like a CM. I generally have an idea of what I'm talking about. And if you don't, as I said earlier, I'm tired of dealing with people who just fucking come up and they just want to repeat, shit that they've heard on YouTube shows or from a high school textbook they read 40 years ago. I'm done with that. And I don't really care if I hurt feelings. It's just
not what it is, Stanley. It's actual history, brother. Come on, man.
No. Number one, I'm not your brother. And number two, it's not actual history.
Okay, I won't call you brother.
Literally, it is not. And you don't know it. If you think history is a bunch of timelines, facts and figures, then you don't know what history is. History is not a set of dates and events. It's interpretation of those events. And different historians have different takes on the same events. You can believe one or the other, but history's more than, 1776 this was signed. It's way more than that. It's way more complicated.
Yeah, they had to go through heaven and hell just to get boots and guns for those troops. Now, I'm sure Frederick Douglass had his boots and guns.
No. I'm not going to even let you finish that narrative because, sure, it was like that at some point, but at some point it changed. That's what you're not understanding. Things evolve.
Yeah, finally. After blisters on the feet and everything else.
Who gives a fuck? White soldiers went through the same thing.
No, at least they had boots and a gun when they joined up.
No. Don't tell me at least. I'm saying white soldiers went through the same conditions. Maybe it was worse for black soldiers. The times were the times. But you do not know. I'm going to be blunt. You don't know shit enough for me to really even consider your opinion. You need to hit the books.
I'm telling you stuff that I read.
Don't tell me stuff I already know.
So you're admitting
who the fuck? No, I'm admitting that you're not good company or good conversation on this particular historical point because you don't seem to have a sense of nuance or context.
Well, it's your opinion, Stanley. You're welcome.
No, it's not. It's not my opinion. It's what I've read, written by actual historians.
Oh no, maybe you've been reading the wrong book.
Research and do.
You know what? Let me guarantee you one thing. Even if I'm reading the wrong books, I've read way more books than you have.
Well, you're older than me, of course you have.
Okay, dude, I'm fucking 6 years older. There are people 20 years younger that have read more than me. Bottom line is you don't even seem to have a firm grasp on any of this. That's all I have to say.
And collaborators. I want to tell you about Ryan Coogler's deal that shocked me when he was negotiating to sell the rights to the movie Sinners. We'll do that after this break. So Ryan Coogler's deal for Sinners, the guy did have some leverage. He is a part of the Marvel franchise with Black Panther. He's made billions of dollars.
I'm
for
actually
the
kind
movie
of bored
studios.
with this.
And so
let's switch over to Leonard Remix Roy and his critique of his on-the-fly critique. He came out with like 3 or 4. I noticed he released one this morning. He's been pissed off ever since I just checked him because I wouldn't let him walk all over the panel or the show. So this will be of special interest. I think I'm replaying part of this because I never made it through it. But this is Leonard Remix Roy going Stanley Cross 6000. My son and I are boots on the ground combat veterans? Or boots on the ground combat veterans. You're not, or your sissy son. Talking about my son. He's never even met my son. Oh, yeah.
I don't understand that, Stanley. Why do people have to bring people's kids into the mix? That's fucked up, man.
Well,
I don't
because
understand that shit.
It's Leonard Remix Roy.
This
Was
is
he
Leonard
drunk?
remix of all of the Roy.
No idea.
And boy, let me tell you, boy, Stanley, all in him little feelings, little anchor cranker Navy dude. That's the flag of my people, Louisiana Creoles. And I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free and I don't have to be a goofball, anchor cranker like Stanley. Yeah, he was in the doggone Navy. I asked him, I said, you know what this is? I just happen to be wearing this shirt. No, I said, Black Knights. This is West Point. This is a West Point t-shirt. I'm like, did you become an officer by going to the Naval Academy?
That's pathetic.
I went to OCS. I'm like, oh, now I see why you doggone ended your career as only a captain. Yeah. And you talking about, yeah, all your Mercedes? It's like, yeah, all my Mercedes. I love Mercedes. Oh, yes, I do. I love Mercedes. Yes, I do. I'm not going to show the license plate and dox myself, but no license plate in the front here or here. Oh, yes. Yes. Stanleysha. Oh, look at that. 101st Airborne. Third ID. Now, let me explain something to him. When he was talking about the Navy and Marines and combat. Okay. Vietnam era, that shit was cool. That shit was cool. But who led the invasion? Desert Storm. That would be United States Army, First Armored. Not the Marines. That are part of the Navy. And the Navy, unless you're like a CB combat engineer, something along those lines, or Navy SEAL, you never boots on ground. Stop it. You know, he's a F-egg like the rest of them. Now, that was Desert Storm. Let's move on up. Now, oh, wait a minute. No,
Can you pause it, Stanley?
Wait a minute. Now, when
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Stanley. Now he proudly displays his West Point T-shirt. Well, I can go on Amazon and buy one of those. I guarantee you, this motherfucker is not a West Point graduate. Otherwise, he would not be on there doing all this stupid shit.
Well,
No
I
West
said
Point
this
grad
last
would
night.
do that.
A lot of people like Leonard, and I could think of a whole host of people. They just depend on their audience's ignorance. Okay, Leonard had to go back to high school or get a GED or something to even join the army. So why he's so proud of a t-shirt somebody sent him who worked at West Point or something like that. His sons didn't go to West Point. He didn't, he didn't graduate from high school, didn't qualify for the army, had to go back. And as I tried to tell him, it really doesn't matter whether I went to Annapolis or OCS, which I did. Had we met each other on the pier or something, he would have given me a smart salute and gone, "Good morning, sir." So, none of this actually matters. And I don't know what it is.
Captain. He called you
Well,
captain.
yeah,
Stanley. Wasn't
not
you
even
a lieutenant?
he doesn't understand. Well, I was the equivalent of an army captain, but army captains, like company commanders, they have a lot of power. So, army captains are not to be sneezed at. So he's just venting because I wouldn't let him, if you've ever seen Leonard on a panel, he will take over that panel and talk for an hour. And I wasn't having it. I'm not, this isn't an open topic panel generally, almost never. And I'm not that impressed by his antics. And he got pissed off. And that's fine. It's just a temper tantrum. Because he releases like 5 of these.
When
Something like that.
Afghanistan came up. Oh my goodness.
Sounds like a coup.
You see that there? That patch there? Now, I was not special forces. Okay. Just happened to be was considered an augmentee. Afghanistan. Oh, okay. Then you want to go to Iraq? Oh, let's go to Iraq. Because 37 Cav was regulating, leading the charge in Iraq. I was in 57 Cav right there. This means a lot to me. I keep it close. All right. While Stanley was not remotely boots on ground. You know? Now,
Well, I have to say, in Stanley's defense, the Navy up until Afghanistan, maybe Iraq, but Afghanistan, I know for sure, we were rarely boots on ground. We were boots on deck. The Navy
That's right.
isn't the Navy's not a ground force. Why he thinks he's like scoring points here is beyond me.
not upset.
Unless you're Navy
About-
SEAL, then it's boots on the ground.
Telling him about the PAC Act, whereas he would be eligible for veterans benefits that he didn't know about. He talked about, my father been telling me, like, shut up, Stanley. Now, I'll let you all listen to it for the remainder of this video. Okay? All right. Let me
He's
go here on
drunk,
Google.
Stanley.
The PAC Act in reference to Desert Storm veterans.
And this is what happens when apparently people get drunk and they're hearing their own voice louder than other people's voices.
Yeah.
I told him that this PACT Act is something that affected my father. Might even be years ago now, but he actually did go, well, hey, and I'm just lazy, but I'm glad Leonard brought it up because I have a doctor's appointment coming up, and I'll make notes and maybe even do the paperwork if possible before I get there. So I'm appreciative that he reminded me. But this motherfucker acts like he's the smartest black veteran. Dude, my father is literally a Vietnam vet. That whole Agent Orange thing, he had to have the advocate and all this stuff. Leonard seems to think that he's the only black man in America that's capable of navigating paperwork and all this stuff. While I appreciate him reminding me, part of his problem is much like John Galt, if John Galt gives you advice, it's like you're beholden to him forever. And dude, the only black man that I might be inclined to bow before is my father. I've said hundreds of times, I don't have heroes. If I did, it would be Frederick Douglass. But my parents and my father, the remaining parent, he's my hero. Fuck Leonard.
Okay, listen up.
Like anybody gives a fuck about any of this. That's the amazing thing. This is some sort of beef video talking about the PACT Act.
The PACT Act expands healthcare and disability benefits for Desert Storm veterans, specifically those exposed to toxic hazards. It presumes exposure for veterans who served in Southwest Asia after August 2nd, 1990, removing the need for them to prove direct exposure.
So, seeing as he says he
He
served
had
in
to ask
Persian
the
Gulf, he was
robot.
on the ship in that region, and they had all that toxic oil burning stuff in the air. I'm like, hey, bro, you got lung issues, maybe unbeknownst to you, and you can get compensated for it. You can't reverse the damage, but you can get compensated for it. What does he do? Call me a motherfucker? Really? And I'm like, okay, well,
You got his pussy hurt because you called him
then
a
I said, well,
motherfucker.
my daughter retired. Purple Heart.
Oh, and by the way, that was like an hour after we talked about it on a totally unrelated matter. Apparently, I'm supposed to be eternally grateful because he brought it up. This dude is a weirdo.
Yeah, evidently.
Our veteran, my son, 100% disabled veteran, just like their old dad, Iraq, Afghanistan. Oh, that's something proud to talk about your kids. I'm like, oh, yeah, Louisiana Creole flag. I'm sitting here like, dude, his child is going to school at Georgia Tech, downtown somewhere, not
And
downtown, but in the Atlanta region. Yeah. Not
you gotta
wishing any
bring up
bad
your
upon his
kid,
son.
man. That's
If he end up being a robbery victim at that ghetto ass college or something worse,
not
hey,
a ghetto
it is
college.
what it is. See, people need to be careful what they speak when they speak it, because sometimes they speak their own doggone demise into existence.
Now
You can be mad
listen to
all you
this
want. I don't give
motherfucker.
a damn. I'm trying to help a fellow veteran get what they deserve. And he treats me like that. I was like, okay, fine.
Well, what I'm trying
The
to
hell
figure
with
out
you, Stanley.
is even if I treated him like shit, it wasn't my son treating him like shit. Like, seriously, my son, if I asked my son, hey, go to my page or go to my show, my son I don't even know that he knows the name of the show or the channel. Where does my son come into any of this?
And
Who knows?
he called Georgia Tech a ghetto ass college, and that's one of the most highly regarded colleges in the country. I mean,
Well,
this motherfucker's stupid, man.
I haven't been all over the campus, but I can tell you right now, number one, don't be out in the middle of the fucking night. They do have campus security. And it is in
Bless you,
Midtown.
Stanley.
It is in Midtown. There are probably times and places on the campus you don't want to go. But I've been on the campus plenty of times. It's not that ghetto. As a matter of fact, it's fucking beautiful. I like it. I like Georgia Tech's campus better than I like the University of Georgia.
I love y'all's architecture down there. It's beautiful, man. We don't
Right.
have that.
But the thing is that being a fellow black man, he's just pissed off. You know what?
Well, Stanley, hold on. He doesn't even claim to be black. He says he's Creole. So that's supposed to make him better than a black man, evidently.
I actually have no idea how that even applies to much of anything. It's entertainment. I don't take, like I've been trying to say for the past couple days, after this whole see more experience, it's hard for me to take these characters seriously. I'm just going to do what I do, and I'm going to conduct my panel the way I think it needs to be conducted. Leonard doesn't get special treatment because he reminded me, or even if he thinks he informed me, dude, that doesn't mean you get carte blanche.
And your whole entire family. I'm too light skinned to deal with your foolishness, especially since you got that doggone Lori Lightfoot hairstyle.
I think she's white or something.
Frederick Douglass. So, be gone, Stanley.
You know, he's actually been banned from a lot of panels, like Gospel of Bob, Don't Let Him Up No More, or anything. Because he just likes to take over the whole panel, Stanley.
Right, and that's not going to happen here. But whatever. You know, like I said, it's light entertainment. So here's another one. Because he did like several of them, maybe 4 or 5.
Can't believe it. You must have really hurt his asshole.
I'm ball right now. Just so Stanley knows that I don't live stream.
Oh wait,
this
is called More 8/9/2026 video for weak sauce Stanley Cross. And let's see. Oh, and his son. He still wants to include my son.
Post the video instantly.
Or maybe I called him son.
Here we go. 3:34 a.m. East Coast time. This is Sunday morning. I have nothing to do because I have nothing to do. But he said that I went and got my GED so I could join the Army. This is a high school dropout. Yes, I did drop out of high school. Why? Because I didn't want to go to
Nobody gives a fuck why. Just admit that I was right. If you dropped out of high school to get into the Army at the time, and I think it's still that way, you have to have a GED or a diploma. Just say I'm right and move on.
Right.
Well, I don't care. Who cares why you dropped out? You dropped out.
HBCU and be around people like Stanley and other, dare I say, blacks. I was tired of going to school around black people. Thus and so. I wanted something completely different in life. So I did my DJ thing, had a ball, and make America great again. Times take that one off and take that one off too. So I returned to high school. Calumet High School. That's my high school diploma that's in this book. Not a GED, a high school diploma. Yes, Stanley is a doggone.
Okay, let me help you out here, Leonard. Okay, I don't give a fuck whether it was a GED or you had, and I actually said that. I couldn't remember whether it was GED or maybe he had to go back to high school. The bottom line is you couldn't just go to the recruiter and say, hey, I want to join. That recruiter said, you're not qualified. You need some form of high school diploma. Okay, nobody gives a fuck about your life story or your life story details. So stop the cap, son.
They put these MAGA hats back up. Stanley is a jerk. He's not boots on ground.
Yeah, you're a jerk. I'll confirm that, Stanley.
What it takes to be in the military. Yeah. It's a sissy.
So my son,
Sissy. He's talking about
my son is a sissy. Other than telling, some good stuff about my son, where is he getting the notion that my son is a sissy? Where the fuck does he
I
get this?
don't know. He
Let's see.
just says it because he's online. He wouldn't say that to your son's face. He'd never
He
say
would.
that to
Let
your
me
son's
put it to
face.
you this way. We don't travel in the same social circles. I'd be surprised if my son ever even ran into him.
Yeah.
oh, so
I
his
don't
children, this
understand
and
that.
that. My son did what your son would never do. Of course, that's me, and that's my daughter. Oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lord. You see that? That's his wife. Oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lord. Let me move all the way over here to my
Lordy, Lordy,
grandbaby.
Lord.
Yeah, I could live with her being Navy. She's a girl. That's what's for the Navy, unless you're a Navy SEAL. Girls. Girls like you, Stanley. I can't even call your son a girly boy. He wasn't even in the military, Stanley. Yes.
So what?
So this is what I'm going to see. I'm going to show this a little bit right here. Let me turn the volume up on this. Do I got him muted? Let me see. Yes, I do. And where's the whatchamacallit? Oh, wait a minute. I have to plug this into the monitor. When Afghanistan came up. Oh, that's what I was talking about. Yeah. I know.
Does this dumb fuck understand that I was way out of the Navy by the time Afghanistan became a thing? I was out years before 9/11. What the fuck? Why does he keep bringing up Afghanistan? I got out of the Navy in 1994, 10 years or 9 or 10 years before 9/11. What is this man's problem? Other than I don't give him deferential treatment like RLM and all these other content creators. Leonard's just another guy on YouTube. He's not that special.
That part is okay. This
You see
around.
that there?
Yeah.
That patch there? Now, I was not special forces.
The way
Yeah.
he keeps tackling is kind
Let me
of
see what he
annoying.
says here.
Stanley.
Afghanistan.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Then you want to go to Iraq? Oh,
Mother.
This guy thinks that I don't know shit about the Army. If you didn't go to Ranger School or any of these schools, you can be attached to a Special Forces unit, but that doesn't make you Special Forces. Does he not think I don't know this? Dude, what Special Forces school did you go to? What tab did you earn? Son, you keep thinking that I'm one of your ignorant fans. I don't know a lot. I don't know a lot about the Army, but I know enough to know that combat engineers can be attached to a lot of things. Boots on the ground. What does he expect someone in the Navy to be boots on the ground? Especially before Afghanistan, the dude is low vibrational, low tolerance, thin skinned, and he's clowning himself. But please continue.
Bugger, nobody cares about us.
Am I confused?
You
Am I
see that?
confused? Did I not listen to your channel earlier today and this guy was on your channel?
Yeah, he was on for quite a bit.
And now all of a sudden he has a problem with you?
Well,
Uh-oh.
I wouldn't, you know, a lot of people just kind of let him ramble on and over talk and
Let's
stuff.
listen.
And I'm
Yeah.
simply not going to let it happen unless it is somehow conducive to the conversation.
No, of course.
Some people don't like being put in their place. I don't owe him free speech on this channel. And you know, it's his little way of, you know,
No, it's
expressing
not.
his displeasure that I wasn't going to let him run rampant. I'm not.
No, it's not. I was being sociable. I was trying to let
Motherfucker, you being sociable might not be my way of being sociable. What it is you don't respect other people's panels or channels. Okay, you think because you're Leonard Remix Roy and you can say that name into Siri and get a response that you're some sort of star. Motherfucker, you are part of house music history, but let me tell you something. I didn't grow up with house music. I barely grew up with rap. Like I was fucking, you know, in the Navy by the time, you know, groups like Naughty by Nature and all, you know, NWA. Dude, I was well on my way to a fucking deployment by the time, you know, this stuff came out. I didn't grow up with it. You're just, dude, I would never even know who the fuck you were had I not run into you on YouTube. You're not a household name. Stop acting like you're that famous. Maybe you are with people who are into house music, but not me. You're just another weirdo who has main character syndrome. I'm not impressed. You don't get to take over my panel. And that's a you problem if you have a problem with it. You exist within my framework, not the other way around. You hadn't been coming up to the channel much before now. Let's go back to how it was.
Stanley know about things that he is entitled to as a veteran, but Stanley's a little bitch.
Ordinary right now, a little bit.
This isn't the military.
No, but I'm saying like that's how he lives his life.
I don't know how he lives this life. It's actually not that important.
I'll tell you what, Stan. I remember when he showed his butthole on Earth.
I surely did. Mm-hmm. And I was proud of that. Yes, I was. So
The proud porn bomber.
The military is not important. Well, Stanley, if the military is not important, why do you have My Healthy Vet? Then we talk.
Let me tell you why I have My Healthy Vet. Because I'm a veteran. That's why. The military was important to me. But let's ask a better question, because obviously you're not talented at critical thinking, Leonard. If the military was that important, why are only 2% or less in the military currently? Tell me why less than 2% of 350 plus million people, they don't seem to find it that important to, you know, run in droves towards the military. The military, we don't have a draft. That's how unimportant it is. Get a grip, Leonard.
About that, Stanley? My Healthy Vet? Yes, we did. Oh my goodness. Oh, you're such a doggone loser, Stanley. I told my son a long time ago, if you find yourself.
Do people like Leonard often do videos responding to losers? I think quite the opposite. I got your goat there, son. And you just can't let this go. Motherfucker, if I'm such a loser, why are you doing multiple videos? Oh, by the way, Leonard just released another video. Apparently, I think what Leonard's trying to do is create some sort of beef. So after this, there is one more video, but I'll just skip to the one that he's doing now, and then we're gonna move on because I don't want to give this weirdo more
Yeah.
fuel. More
I'm ready
fuel.
to move on, Stanley.
I don't want to give this weirdo more fuel for whatever fire he's trying to kindle. It's not that important, Leonard.
So, as the smartest person in the room, you need to be in another room. And that's you, Stanley. You are a 100% dork.
I'll make sure to time him out next time I see him in chat.
I doubt he'll be in the chat. And you know what? Why time him out? He's pretty harmless.
Yeah.
I don't think timing Leonard out in a chat is going to make him any better or worse. He's just going to be Leonard. So
Yeah,
this
he
is
didn't
what,
really comment in the chat anyway.
wait, hold it. He's back. This is from 3 minutes ago. He's still putting shit out. This is called Now There's Two Black Guys Trying to
got a
Drag
real-
Me on YouTube. Wait, hold
He's
it.
got a
He
real
actually,
hard
okay,
on
hold
for you,
on.
Stanley.
Hold on. Why does he think I'm trying to drag him? I'm highlighting him. He takes the time to talk about me as a loser and weak sauce. Maybe I'm something
And
after
bringing
all.
your son into
And
everything.
I don't know why. You need to comment before I'm done commenting.
Sorry, Stanley.
I think that Leonard sees some star potential in me. That's why he keeps talking about me. That's what I'm saying. Now, what do you have to say before I start this this glorification video?
No, go ahead, Stanley. I'm just talking shit myself.
What's going on, my video viewing audience? Leonard Roy coming at you. And oh my goodness, you have two different channels.
Yeah.
And they are chibber chabbering about.
And he's on
Leonard.
Twitch and
Leonard
shit.
is the great one. Now, I received a text message saying that CT is back at it again. So what does that make? This is Sunday, so that's Monday. How many days? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's 7 days.
This
with him.
motherfucker doesn't even know how many days there are in a week.
Let me point out that I watched a little bit of CT's show. The few minutes that I watched, they weren't talking about Leonard. What the fuck is he talking about? Maybe they talk. Okay, I don't understand. 12th man. It was a rhetorical question. I don't understand why. I must have missed the part they were talking about Leonard. I listened for maybe 20 minutes. They weren't even talking. They were listening to another show. Leonard's name didn't even come up in the chat. What is wrong with this man?
Stanley, the anchor cranker. He's talking about his military, this military, that. I'm like, dude, the Navy is not a ground force. You weren't boots on ground, Stanley.
You never met the Navy SEALs, evidently.
You did nothing. Nothing. All right, but
this is what a Leonard doesn't understand. I led men. I led men. That's something, son.
Yeah.
Sit out on sea, boots on deck. Just like when I was in the Air Force.
This motherfucker had to choose a force, Air Force, Army. He couldn't even settle on a branch? Is the Air Force
He
boots on
wasn't
the
in
ground?
no airport. I don't believe they let you in the airports with a GED. I don't think they let
No,
you in there.
no clue where you're getting that timeline from. He didn't say he got into the Air Force with a GED. At least I don't think he did. My point is that, dude, there's you know what? I'm not going to even go there, but getting out of one and going into the other, there's some suggestions that going, ping ponging back and forth and all this stuff. There's some things that I could go into, but I'm not that interested.
Right? Oh man. Yeah, and then I was watching this movie. This is Stanley right here, live and direct on TV. Ooh, we're gonna get the shit now. Yeah, the shit. We're gonna get the shit now. Ooh. Looking like Mr. Sims from Tales from the Hood. And CT, that big mullet head. Oh man, and I had to click on this. You got this one Republic Tea Room. Look at this one here. Old broad, young picture. Look at that. Old broad, young picture, never cams up. She's talking. Well, you can look at his teeth and see he's very unkept. I'm like, right. Well, my credit score show kept nice. Look at it. Look at all them. Look at that shining, that glistening forehead. Look, the glistening crispy. Glistening crispy. Oh, hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtag gal. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So this is good.
Tackling motherfucker.
If they talk about me enough doggone traffic is going to come my way. And hell, I may start live streaming again. I just may do it. Start live streaming again. Yeah. It's a damn shame. And see, these same people, they talk a terrific, great game. Yes, they do. And then when I say, well, click on my bank, there's my credit score. Can you match it? Or I show a receipt. This is what the little bit of money I withdrew out the bank today, that's the remaining balance. Can you match it? I asked them. Okay. Prove that you are a homeowner and not a renter. Show that part. Can you match it? They can't. Like I said, and especially with Stanley, I'm like, says he lives on the
Stanley, why does he think you need to prove anything to him?
Alabama.
I don't get it.
No idea.
He was talking about they had a power outage. Oh, okay. I know exactly where that's at because I got a buddy that's down in Columbus, Georgia, Fort Benning.
Okay, by the way, I live nowhere near Columbus. This dude is weird. I literally, maybe a couple hours from Columbus. So what is he talking about, power outages? Let me rewind this a bit.
A buddy that's down in Columbus, Georgia, Fort Benning way. So Stanley is either Phoenix City, Alabama, if I didn't already say, where they pay $795 a year property tax, or on the Fort Benning side, Columbus, Georgia.
Literally nowhere near Columbus, Georgia. You know, that Alabama border is a long ass border. Listen to this weirdo. What the fuck is he talking about? Nowhere near Columbus. Dude, this is what happens when people don't mind their own business. They get proved, they beclown themselves. Dude, literally nowhere near America's Columbus, all that shit. That's like mid Georgia. That's like on the west side, but more like halfway down. Dude, not nowhere near.
Well, they paid $1,500. He couldn't afford to live here.
How the fuck does he know what I can afford? He can't even get the region of Georgia right. This again. Goddamn, dude. I'm literally an hour away from Atlanta. Columbus is more than an hour away from Atlanta, at least as far as I know. I've literally never even been to Columbus, Georgia.
Yeah,
He didn't know Savannah very well, evidently.
Well, I'm not in Savannah.
Stanley don't even have a car. He won't even show a car. He don't have a car. Now, power outage, and this dude.
I'm literally not going to show my car or personal business. I like some things private. And as I said, it was a planned power outage. They let us know like 2 hours and they were late. So a power outage, what the fuck is he talking about? The logic doesn't connect.
I don't know.
I knew, as a matter of fact, I knew they were going to do it. That's why I started the show later, figuring that, it would be done, it would happen and be over with. I love seeing a dummy be dumb, though.
And it only lasted for like 15 minutes, Stanley. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was pretty short.
And he's not even at the point to get any revenue off YouTube yet. It's like, I got him that fired up. And
does he not think that people support the show? What this guy, I got so deep under his skin. The dude is just like a girl windmilling. It's like a girl fight in this news. It's like a big girl fight in Leonard's head. Two girls just windmilling between his ears, and he's just trying to find something that lands. It would be comical if he weren't so old.
The ultimate crispy. CT's a crispy. The ultimate crispy.
Because he won't let you up, motherfucker.
Let me call a friend of mine. Talk to them. Because I'm having too much fun just alone with this.
It's almost sad, Stanley, watching that old man piss away his life being mad at you.
I don't think he's pissing away his life. I think he's having the time of his life. To be honest. What else would he be doing if he wasn't fussing at me and CT? So let's see where I am.
CT don't let him up on panel. That's why he's mad at CT. Like just like the Gospel of Bob don't let him up. He's mad at the world.
Oh well. I see that Universal's show has started. I'm not even sure. It's something like parasocial obsession when watching turns into ownership. And this is like Tina and Andrea. I'm not even sure I'm that interested in it. I see C. Moore is over there. I should simulcast it or something, because this is an old Obama versus Alan Keyes thing. Apparently, they were debating for that U.S. Senate seat that Leonard was arguing about. I should have showed this yesterday, but we'll watch a few minutes of it. And this is vintage Obama before he was even in the U.S. Senate. And then maybe I'll just end the show and go over and watch the travesty. But I can't imagine Tina and Uniquely, versus Seymour would even be that interesting, unless you're into that.
Chicago Tonight election coverage is made possible in part by the City Club of Chicago, a nonpartisan civic organization dedicated to enhancing the discussion of public policy.
Live from WTTW 11, this is Chicago Tonight. Here's Bob Surratt.
And by the way, this is from I believe 1997. So this is quite some time ago.
2-hour edition of Chicago Tonight. The two major party candidates for the Illinois U.S. Senate seat are across the hall in this WTTW studio, where Phil Ponce will conduct the final televised candidate forum of the campaign. We hope it'll give you a bit more insight into the qualifications, positions, and personalities of the candidates. We welcome public television viewers and public radio listeners tonight, joining us from around the state of Illinois. For our local viewers, we'll have extended coverage here on Chicago Tonight, right after the forum, beginning at 8 o'clock. Elizabeth Brackett will be here with a panel to provide analysis, and will also be at the post-forum press conferences of each of the candidates live. Then, in our Chicago Stories feature,
you want a winner, and so do I. That's only natural.
Rich Samuels looks back at two of Illinois' most respected United States senators, Republican Everett Dirksen and Democrat Paul Douglas. And later, I'll have one more thing about debates that aren't really debates. First, we go to tonight's forum for the candidates for the United States Senate. Here's Phil Ponce. Phil?
Thanks, Bob. Here with me in Studio A are two groups of people. First, in the audience, are members and guests of the City Club of Chicago. The City Club is helping to underwrite tonight's forum. With me here at this table are the two major party candidates who want to be Illinois' next United States Senator, and they are Republican Alan Keyes and Democrat Barack Obama. And a quick note on procedure. This is not a formal debate. There are no opening or closing statements, and answers will not be timed. The candidates will not necessarily be asked the same questions. Our goal is to better inform our audience about the candidates and the issues. We have a limited amount of time, so we've asked the candidates to be succinct. If they begin to make a speech, they know I will cut them off. Mr. Keyes, as you know, 380 tons of powerful explosives are missing from a weapons installation in Iraq. Senator Kerry is calling it one of the great blunders of the war in Iraq. You have been generally supportive of the war, but what would you say has been the greatest blunder of the war?
Well, I'm not sure there has been, in my opinion, any egregious blundering. I think that there could have been a greater effort over the beginning of our efforts there to bring in others. I would have brought others in on the political side of the equation to help deal with the business of putting together an Iraqi government. I think that could still be done. But I think it's absolutely imperative that we keep the security dimensions of the Iraqi war under the control of the United States so that we can pursue what ought to be our main objectives, which is to make sure that Iraq does not become a base for terrorist activity, that we are able to make sure our government does not come to power that will aid and abet terrorism, that we are able to do what's necessary to prevent weapons of mass destruction from falling into the hands of terrorists. Those national security security goals are the proper goals of our effort. And I think we ought to be looking to the Iraqi people and to the international community to help deal with the political dimensions of establishing a stable government there.
Senator Obama, you have been critical of the decision to go to war, but what would you grant has been the biggest success?
Well, I think that the initial military was extraordinarily successful in moving into Iraq. And I think that it exceeded all expectations, even those of us like myself who expected the military to be successful. The initial incursion into Iraq were stunned and impressed by how efficient our military and our brave fighting forces were in executing it. But going back to your previous question, I think that 380 tons of explosives that are now being used on roadside bombs is an enormous error, particularly when the Bush administration had been warned by the Atomic Energy Commission. I mean, in past debates, Ambassador Keyes has suggested that somehow I'm naive to question how we've gone about this war in Iraq. It strikes me that this administration has been naive throughout. It was naive in terms of thinking that we'd be greeted as liberators in Iraq. It's been naive in thinking that somehow this would actually diminish recruitment for terrorism. In fact, it's accelerated it. It's been naive with respect to how difficult it was going to be to secure the peace. And it strikes me that, unfortunately, our troops and our taxpayers are suffering from those errors.
Mr. Keyes, naivete on the part of the administration on those counts?
Well, I think we mustn't rush to judgment, because what I'm hearing in the media suggests that with respect to these tons of explosives, it's still not clear what the chain of possession was and whether or not it was, in fact, after the United States took possession that we lost track of these explosives. I also think that all Americans are going to look at the larger picture of whether or not we have taken steps that have effectively stopped Saddam Hussein from delivering weapons of mass destruction to terrorists. The probability of that is zero. Whether we in fact have established a base that allows us effectively to recruit the kind of intelligence that we need to deal with this situation in Iran, in Syria, and elsewhere. Whether we have discouraged other terrorist sponsoring states or potentially terrorist sponsoring states like Syria, like Libya, from continuing with their activities in a way that could result in death for Americans. And I also think we have to keep in mind that the kind of things that we are doing in Iraq and in Afghanistan are only part of the effort we must make against terror, which is to carry the war to the terrorists themselves by every means necessary to find their cells and to wipe them out before they hit Americans. And I think that is part of the effort that does require both intelligence and discretion, and it is going forward.
Along those lines, Mr. Obama, name a key vulnerability or weakness that you see in Homeland Security that you, as a senator, would address.
Well, I think our inspections of ports. We are currently inspecting 3% of all incoming cargo. We could load up a cargo container. Terrorists could load up a cargo container and drive it straight into the middle of the loop without significant risk of them being inspected. Our chemical plants are still unsecured, despite the fact that we know how vulnerable they are. Our nuclear plants remain unsecured. There are a whole host of domestic priorities that have been neglected by this administration. And I have to say that, going back to the issue of Iraq, it is simply not true that Saddam Hussein was providing weapons of mass destruction to terrorists. There's been no evidence that that was the case. And this incursion into Iraq has resulted in a situation in which terrorist recruits are up. It's been acknowledged now by the Pentagon that the estimates of how many insurgents are active in Iraq is far higher. Terrorist attacks worldwide have gone up. They're the highest in 20 years. And the notion that somehow we are less vulnerable in the United States as a consequence of spending $200 billion and sacrificing thousands of lives is simply not borne out by the facts.
This is area that both of you have covered throughout the course of your campaign. Let's move on to Israel. Mr. Keyes, what role do you think the Israeli-Palestinian conflict plays in fueling potential terrorism against the United States?
Oh, I think that we have seen in the Middle East, unhappily, that in the context of the ongoing Arab hostility to Israel, it has become an incubator of terrorism. But I think that was partially because of the response that was there from the rest of the world, including some previous administrations, the Europeans and others, who allowed terrorists with the blood still dripping from their hands to sit down at so-called tables of peace negotiations in order to collect the ill-gotten gains that they had achieved by going after innocent lives. I think that's a great mistake. I think the Bush administration
the real question, Mr.
has
Keyes,
followed the real
if I may interrupt, the real question was, to what extent is the unresolved nature of the conflict fueling potential terrorism against the United States? That's what I meant to ask.
No, that's not the real question. The real question is whether or not, by making concessions to terrorists over the course of several decades, we in fact helped to create the mentality that has then led to a widespread and global threat from terrorism. If we had made it clear, as the Bush administration has, that we will not negotiate with those who practice terrorism, then perhaps we wouldn't have encouraged the adoption of terrorism as a strategic weapon on the part of some Palestinian groups, some in the Arab world, who think that they have gotten away with it, they have reaped rewards from it, they have killed innocent lives in Israel, on the Achille Lauro, at the Olympic Games, and at each stage we were willing to go forward with a process that then rewarded them for this terrorist death. I think the real question is whether or not we shouldn't have started to say no to terrorism long before we did. Then maybe we wouldn't have been struck on September 11th.
Mr. Obama, your thoughts on the role Israel plays in the potential motivation of potential terrorists against the United States?
Well, I think that the ideology, the death cult that's perverted one of the world's great religions, doesn't need an excuse like Israel to engage in the kind of violence that people like bin Laden have engaged in. I think that obviously, to the extent that we can arrive at a peaceful settlement in the Middle East, that would be helpful in draining some of the anti-Israeli and anti-American sentiment that exists there. But we've got to take more steps than that. I mean, one of the concerns that I have, for example, is that we have not been particularly aggressive in promoting the establishment of secular schools in the Middle East that would counteract the madrasas that are basically the only education that young Islamic men are receiving in places like Pakistan. So there are a whole host of issues that I think we're going to have to grapple with. This is a battle of ideas and not simply a military battle that we're engaged in the Middle East. And I think that one of the tragedies of the Bush administration is they've been very neglectful of that second leg of the battle.
Let me ask you this, though, along those lines. Today, the Knesset voted a strong vote of support to Prime Minister Sharon's plan to withdraw settlements from Gaza. Is that a sign that the administration's support of Mr. Sharon is well placed?
Well, I think that Mr. Sharon took an enormous risk and an appropriate risk in that particular circumstance, because what you've seen is a failure of the Palestinian leadership to clamp down on the sort of terrorist activities that have been taking place. And for the Israeli government to take this sort of unilateral step, I think is entirely appropriate in terms of protecting their people. Ultimately, what we're going to have to see is the Arab peoples and the Palestinian people develop the sort of legitimate political leadership that is able to negotiate in a nonviolent fashion and have the will to clamp down on terrorism in a way that has not been done.
Let's move on. Let's move on to
what
the
I find it hard to understand.
Go ahead.
Is over the course of time, you have criticized the Bush administration time and again for a so-called failure to engage in the peace process, when in point of fact, when they withdrew and refused to deal with terrorist elements immediately after they had attacked and killed innocent Israelis, they were...
Yeah, looks like people have lost interest in tonight's show, and I will probably pick this video up at the start of tomorrow's show. Hopefully I'll be back around 4:30. I dropped Universal's link into the chat if people want to go over there and witness that, as I called it, mud wrestling pit. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and I will hopefully see everybody tomorrow. Enjoyed it.